The story of the M14 has all the elements of drama. It has everything but sex. I mean, it's got irony, it's got pathos, it has jealousy, it has stupidity, rigidity. You name it, you can find some element out of British literature in the American Ordnance Department's development and the story of how the M14 got to be a standard service rifle.
The proper way really to think about the M14 as to what it is and what it was and why it came to be is that it can honestly be called the last legacy of John Garand. It really was a product improved M1 Garand. Gone was the Garand's rather pesky en bloc clip, and now you had a box magazine that loaded hook and rock style from the bottom. Gone was the dog leg operating rod. The M14's operating rod was shorter, straighter, less prone to bending, less prone to breakage. Gone overall was about 1.5 pounds of weight, which was the objective at the beginning of the program.
Now, the mission that the M14 was intended to fulfill began during the Second World War, when John C. Garand had actually received reports from the field about different types of improvements that the soldiers had tried to make or thought could be made to his venerable M1 Garand, the finest battle implement ever devised, as George Patton called it.
When you look at an M14 and an M1 Garand, the parentage is obvious. You look at that receiver, you look at that bolt. The engineers at Springfield improved some things. They put a new gas system in that could be regulated. But John Garand was interested in accuracy. He was interested in ergonomics. And many of the things that made his rifle, the M1, so good were incorporated into the M14. Really, the M14 is his last legacy. It was his gift to the soldiers that would stand guard during the Cold War. The rifle was as good as that sort of rifle is going to be.
There's no question that John Garand's efforts to design the tooling to make the very complex receiver, which was the heart of both of those guns, extends into the M14 program at a time when he had already retired from the Armory. And so you really do end up with the Garand perfected, if you will, although the gun is often not seen that way. That's really what it is. I think the difference in terms of the endearment is simply the volume of Garands and also the difference in the perception between World War II and Vietnam.
The Army started working on a replacement for the M1 Garand in 1944. But the M14 was not officially adopted until 1957. But as long as it took the Army to develop the M14, producing it proved to be every bit as problematic.
Ultimately, several people contractors in private industry bid and were awarded contracts to produce the M14. Thompson, Ramo Wooldridge, Winchester, and Harrington and Richardson, I believe. They had so many teething troubles trying to get into production. It was just a nightmare. Ultimately, there was a congressional investigation over why they couldn't produce this gun. The Army, about that time, the Korean War was breaking out. The Army had, for lack of an alternative, gone back into production producing M1 rifles. Ultimately, Springfield Armory had to come to the rescue and produce the bulk of the M14s.
The M14 was the last wood and steel main battle rifle built, designed, issued to U.S. troops. It was the curtain call of the M1 Garand, if you will.
Before a year or two was up in Vietnam, the M16, originally designed by Gene Stoner and which the Army had rejected, became the standard service rifle. Strangely enough, by the time we get to Iraq and Afghanistan, again there has been a change of heart. Everyone is unhappy, or claims to be unhappy, with the M16. And what do they want? They want M14s back. And in fact, they have been resurrected, resuscitated, and reissued. And I believe contracts are now being let for more of them. It's fundamentally a good gun. It just didn't, it was the wrong gun at the right time or the right gun at the wrong time. Now, that's the M14 story.